Hello everyone, and welcome to TubeTape.com's PhotoKey webinar. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Sean and I'll be your host. As you can see on the screen, as a thank you for attending our webinar, we will be giving you guys a 15% promo code good on anything at TubeTape.com. Just enter that promo code during the checkout process and you'll get your 15% off. If you'd like to join the chat, we'll have a couple experts in there who can answer questions while I'm doing the webinar, and also they will be posting some links and things like that to show you some extra information. Finally, at the end of the webinar, we're going to have a Q&A session, so you can put in your questions to our experts, and they'll let me know, and I'll go over some more detailed stuff and maybe show you some things that maybe we didn't cover as thoroughly, so we'll help you with that stuff. So basically, that's it. So let's go ahead and get started. So basically, for anybody who is new to green screen photography, I just want to quickly go over the basics of what it is. So green screen photography, also known as chroma key, is the process of taking a picture of people or objects against a solid background color, and most of the time this color is either blue or green. Then you bring it into that picture into software like PhotoKey, which then can automatically remove the background color and allow you to replace it with any other image you might want. So a few things, there are different pieces of software for this. There's plugins for Photoshop. The Digital Anarchy one's a quite expensive software, but it does a very good job. Then there's, of course, PhotoKey, and there's 3 versions of that, which I'll go over in just a second. And there are a few other programs that are cheaper, and they do a pretty decent job, but nowhere near as powerful as those other ones. So I'm going to quickly just want to go over the 3 different versions of PhotoKey. PhotoKey Lite is only found in bundled software as an OEM product, which just basically means you can't get it on its own. It comes like in our Green Screen PhotoWorks kit, and it's very simple software. It does a great job of removing the green screen in your pictures, but it doesn't have very many filters or other features that you'll find in PhotoKey 6 and PhotoKey 6 Pro. The main difference between the Pro version and standard PhotoKey 6 is that PhotoKey 6 is really designed for event photographers. It has batch capturing features, so if you're an event photographer and you're taking a whole bunch of pictures at once, you can easily bring them all in to your software and then push them out really quickly and stuff like that. It also has a few more filters and things like that, some very cool ones actually. So there are some advantages to Pro over PhotoKey 6, and today I'll be using PhotoKey 6 Pro actually and show you some of the cool things that it has over PhotoKey 6. So kind of the next thing I just want to cover real quickly is actually just lighting the green screen. So the ultimate way to light a green screen is with a 5-point light setup. And in this setup, basically you have 2 lights that are placed on the green screen and just light the green screen only. And then you use your other 3 lights to do a standard 3-point light setup. And that would be your key light, the fill light, and the hair light. Now really even though this is the ultimate way to light your green screen, if you can afford to get that set up and you have space to do that, it gets you the best quality. However, with the advances in green screen removal software programs like PhotoKey, you really don't need to set up such a good lighting anymore to get a really good key. A smaller light setup like 3-point lighting will work fine. Using just the sun outside on a nice day like that, or a well-lit room, is enough to get a good key nowadays. And that kind of gets us to the point of the webinar. As you can see from this picture, they look actually like they've actually been keyed out really well, but they're just not in the image very well. They kind of look strange. They don't look like they blend together really well. And that's kind of the idea now, is that it's easy to remove the green, regardless of kind of your lighting setup and all that stuff. The hard part is kind of creating a look that looks realistic or stylistic, and that's kind of what we're going to cover today. So as you can see from this image, these are some of the ones we've done recently for our new image background packs, or fashion pack and sports pack. And hopefully this is to show you that, these are very stylistic looking pictures. They blend in nicely. And that's kind of what I want to cover today and really show you how to do that and make good looking pictures. So I just want to give you a few tips on effectively creating a good composition here. And this is designed like if you know what you want to do beforehand, these are some good things to keep in mind. So basically light your subject to match the background. And that just basically means you want to, if you know what your background is, you want to take your picture at the same color temperature as the background. So if it's at night and it's very bluish color, which night usually is, then you want to take your picture at that style. You would want to think about the direction and intensity of the shadows, which just means, again, if you have very harsh shadows, like kind of a film noir style, and that's the background you want, then you want to take your your subject take that with very harsh shadows. Another thing you want to think about is having your model match the scene. So basically, attire, that's simple. So say if you have, like, you're taking a Arctic picture or something, like in the snow, you'd probably want to have your model dressed in a heavy coat and things like that. Again, if you're doing a fashion shoot, you want the hair and makeup to match kind of the style you're going for. And props. Props is a very interesting thing to use. That basically means you don't just need your subject and your background. You can think about using objects like a desk or a lamp or anything that can be holding or interacting with. You don't just have to have the person in the green screen. And when you use a prop like that, it actually adds more of that realism to it. Even though the background's green screen, they can be interacting with other stuff, which can be very cool. And the last thing I just want to mention is matching camera to composition. Basically, just what that means is think about how the background image looks in your foreground. So angle, if your background image, your background image was taken at a low angle up, then you want to do the same thing with your subject, so the same angle as the background image. Depth and field and focus, the same type of thing. What you want to think about is maybe you don't want just your subject just right in the front of the image and just in perfect sharpness. Maybe they're kind of on some steps or something farther back in the image, and you don't want them completely in focus. So that's kind of something to think about when you're doing that. Now, this isn't necessary. That doesn't mean you can't just take a picture and adjust it layer and not worry about this stuff. But if you really know what you're want to do, this is a good things to think about if you kind of know exactly what you want to create. So this is just some of the things we're going to talk about quickly. I'm basically going to cover today, and these are what we're going to do. So blending subject with background. There's a lot of tools for doing that in PhotoKey, including light wrap, color collection, blur, and shadows. Basically, all that stuff helps just create that look where it blends in with the background and helps you do that. And adding objects with layers. That's something to really think about that can be really fun to do. Say you want to have like a picture taken like in San Francisco or something, then you might want to use a layer, like a fog layer. So you can create a layer or find one on the internet of like a transparent fog, and you can lay that over your subject and over your background so it kind of looks like they're in the fog, or using rain or dust. It's cool because you can have multiple layers in PhotoKey, so you can use things like that just to kind of create even more atmosphere, more depth to your picture. The rule of thirds is basically an idea of splitting the screen, your picture basically into quadrants, and the human eye actually likes things in certain positions. Basically, it finds it more pleasing. You can look that up more on the internet and find out more about it. But basically, the cool thing with doing this is that you create your rule of thirds in post. So, and with PhotoKey, you can scale and move your background and foreground to create. Put them in the right place so they just kind of have that pleasing look to the eye. And also you can flip your images vertically and horizontally. And sometimes it's actually really helpful. That sometimes, like the subject, if you just flip them so they're a mirror image of themselves, they just blend with the background better. But so it depends, and it's an option you can use though, so it really allows you to make adjustments how you want. And just the last thing I'm going to cover today is stylizing your composition. There's some really cool features in PhotoKey that allow you to create vignettes, bleach bypass, tints, things like that really help bring the entire image together and really create these cool stylistic looks. So that's basically what we're going to cover today. So let's go ahead and open up PhotoKey and get started. So this is the PhotoKey 6 interface. If you're not familiar with it, on the left-hand side here we have our categories. And on the right-hand side here, we have all the tools that are in that category. And it's all split up so each category totally makes sense, and you work in each category at a time and to create your composition, basically. So we'll cover a lot of these in today's webinar. So let's go ahead and get started and start with the most basic thing, of course, and that's importing. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to import our foreground image. So what we do is click on Import, and we're going to use this background image right here. Excuse me, I mean our picture right here of our model. Here we go. And as you can see, PhotoKey did a very good job of removing the green screen. But it's not perfect. As you can see, there's a little bit of green tinge in her legs, and that's called green spill. It's also in her hair a bit. And actually, her skirt right here is fairly transparent, actually. So we got to do a little cleaning up. So basically, we're going to go to the key category, and we're going to make some adjustments. So the first thing we're going to start with is the auto chroma key setting. So in this case, there's a lot of times the color picker does a very good job of getting the right color, but in this case it seemed to have picked a little darker color than I think the actual green screen was. So I'm going to hold the color picker and drag it over here and select the green here. And you can see that actually did a little better job. You can see her skirt is actually less transparent now. Still the little green spill though in different areas, so we're going to have to clean that up. But first thing we're going to start with, just to improve the key a little bit, is the best way to do this is if you go to View and select the Map View, it's going to give you a black and white representation of the image. And basically the area that's black is what has been keyed out, and the area that's white is what's left. And anything, the gray colors are semi-transparent. So we want to take care of that. So as you can just see in here under the matte settings, we have two sliders we're going to use as a clip background. And this will just, as you can see actually down here at the bottom, there's just a little line here, and this is from where the floor meets the ceiling, and it didn't key it out perfectly. So this is a good example of what the clip background does. You see, we're just going to clip it up a little bit, and that removes that. Otherwise, you can see around it, every other the green was keyed out really well. So just a little adjustment of that will get rid of that. Then we're going to use the clip foreground, and we're going to slide it down to get rid of those slightly transparent areas in her shirt. So we're just going to slide this down until they disappear for the most part. Right about there looks really good. Okay, so now we're going to switch back to our result view. And that looks good. The skirt's completely opaque now and looks really good. But there's still some green and stuff in her legs, so we're going to get to that. Actually, one other thing I want to cover really quick is the erode tool. This is actually a good tool. Basically, a lot of times when you take green screen images, especially if the lighting's not perfect, the erode tool removes just like a pixel or two around the edge just to help clean that up. Of course, you can take it to extremes, which can look extremely weird. So you'd want to use this very sparingly and just remove just a pixel or two, just to get rid of the edge just a bit, and that'll help clean it up. I'm going to make a smoother edge, and you're not really like messing with the picture too much. You're not going to notice just a pixel or two removed. So that's a good tool for doing, for cleaning it up. So if you have a problem with that, so I always like to do just a little bit of that. Now the next thing we're going to cover is the spill suppression. And what the spill suppression does is it helps remove the green that you get on the edges sometimes when the green screen basically spills onto your subject. Now, spill simulation is the most powerful version of the spill suppression tool, and you have all these settings you can change. But what I've found is that I always like to try out different ones first, just to make sure, because these are simpler to use, and a lot of times I found extended works really well. So let's try that, and it works really good. As you can see, her legs have lost that green tinge and are much nicer looking. Same thing with her hair. So in this case, something you want to experiment with, if you have a lot of spill on yours, maybe spill simulation is the best, and you can make all those different adjustments in the settings just to get what you need. But a lot of times you don't need to do that much, so just try one of the other methods and see if they work really well. In this case, I really liked how that worked. So as you can see, also there are a lot of other settings here that you can change. Alpha levels, alpha blur. All these are going to help you with your key. So basically, in this case, I don't really need to play with these a whole lot today on this image, but they all help you get the best key possible. So if you're having a problem with it, try out all these, make different settings, and see what you can get. There's one other setting down here that's really cool too. It's called Light Wrap, and it's on right now. But basically, it works with the background image and helps create a really cool look. So I'm going to come back to this in just a minute because we got to get our background imaging to really see what it looks like. So I'm going to go back to import and go to background, and we're going to import our background image. So I'm going to use this picture here and bring it in. So I also want to show you really quick under the canvas setting. This is where you can choose the size of the image you're going to work with. So right now I just have it set as the background image, but there are a bunch of ones you can use. You can do foreground, so it'll create your canvas size. Basically, the image you're working with is the size of your foreground picture, and all these basic print sizes that if you want to do that, and you can also create your own custom size that you want. So yeah, so you come in here if you want to if you have a specific idea of what you want your canvas to be and what you want your final image size to be. So we're going to leave it as background. And now, as you can see, also now that we've done that, you can see there's actually a little bit of one of the hair light, actually this backlight that's in the picture. So to get rid of that, we're going to go to mask. And what the mask setting does is it allows you to just kind of just select the area that you want. So I'm going to add a mask. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw a mask around her. Now you can make this actually as tight as you want, or whatever you need. If you're having a major problem with some of your image, you can zoom in really tight and create a mask right around your subject and really cut it out. I mean, and that's a lot of work. But if you're having problems, it is a tool that you can use if you need to. I'm doing just a pretty, just around her. You can even make just a big square if you want to. But I just kind of want to cut it out just to make sure there's no other weird stuff. So as I close the mask, as you can see, she disappeared. But in this case, I'm just going to go down here and click invert. And what that does is that'll keep her, and everything outside the mask it's going to remove. So also I always like to add just a couple a little feather to it, and basically what that does is it just smooths the edges around the mask, just in case there's any weird little things around there. So it's a good idea always just add a little feather. It probably isn't noticeable, but it just makes it so if there is any weird things, it'll fix that up. Okay, so now that we've got that all cleaned up here, we're going to actually go into position and start lining up our image kind of where we want it. So as you can see, you can actually take your picture and you can move it anywhere you want on the image. I'm going to actually put her around over here. And a little tip that I found, sometimes feet can be an issue. So if you're doing a full body shot, sometimes feet, they just don't blend in right with the background, don't look right. So a little trick I sometimes do is I just bring the subject's feet out of the image just to hide that problem. You can do it, and we've done things where it looks really good, but it's just a cool little trick, because you usually won't notice and it still look really good, and then you don't have to deal with that little problem. Also in this case, I'm going to scale her up just a bit. She's a little small in this image, so I'm going to just go about to 120 or so. Now scaling up an image, you don't want to do it too much, but if you stay around 120 to 130 or so, you're not going to have too many problems. But if you can start going too high, your image is definitely going to pixelate a little bit. So in this case, 120 is fine, and she still looks really good. So that works okay. Now you also have the option to rotate the subject and stuff like that. And all these settings are also on the background, so you can scale and rotate the background image too. But in this case, I don't want to do that. So that's looking pretty good. And usually this is the time where most people are done with their image and they're happy with it. But we're going to get into the really details now and really go over the filters and show you how to really make all this image blend together and look stylistic. So first thing we want to do is go back to Key, and I want to show you what light wrap does. So what this does is basically it just adds a little glow around the edge of your person, and that's kind of basically the idea of green. It kind of works in a way like green spill does, is basically any of the light that's coming from your background image would, of course, be reflecting off of her. So kind of light wrap simulates that. So if I turn it up a lot, you can see, particularly in this black area around her dress, you can see how that glow is being created. So again, this is a subtle, very subtle tool. You don't want to overdo it, but it can do, just adds a slight bit of realism to your image. And also there's a lot of different settings. There's lighten, add, and all these different ones. And they just create a slightly different look. So just play with it and choose the one you like the best and whatever worked with your image. In this case, I think lighten worked perfectly fine, and I just upped the size just a little bit. So that's all. So again, just play with it and create the look kind of you're going for. There's no like specific setting for this. This is just kind of your eye and what you think looks best. Alright, so let's go ahead and move on to the filters now and get to the meat of the program and really the cool things it can do. So we're going to start with the background image. As you can see, there's a lot of different tools you can adjust. I'm not going to go over all these, so I'm going to just kind of go the ones that really work for this picture, but you use these a lot actually. These are the kind of ones you're working with a lot on each picture you're going to want to do. So let's start with saturation. And basically saturation is the amount of color that's in the image. So if we turn it up, you'll see the colors start popping more and green becomes really strong. and and you see the ground has more red into it, so it brings out the color more. In this case, I want to slide it down. Of course, sliding it down takes out the color, so if you bring it all the way down, it's a black and white image. So I want to bring it down, though. I just kind of like the look in this case. It's just kind of a dreary type day, so I want to desaturate it a bit just to kind of bring that out more. So I'm going to bring it down to around 0.8, 0.79 is fine, just to kind of give that more look to it. I'm going to adjust the levels. Basically what this is the same thing as contrast. So basically it gives you the same setting, it does the same thing but gives you a little more control over it. So if you turn up the blacks, basically all the dark areas are going to get really dark. So again, you don't want to go too far with these. You do these in small increments and it just creates a really nice look. And so we're just going to do about 10% of the blacks just to kind of get a little darker in there. It's the same thing as the whites. If you bring the slider down, as you can see, it blows out and brings out the whites too much. So again, it's very subtle. So I'm just going to bring those down about 10% again on the whites, just so there's a little more contrast now in the image. I just want to show you real quick. Actually, this one's fine. But color temperature also allows you to change to just the overall look of it. So you can see you can really create a look that you want. This, if you bring it up, it brings a really bluish colors, and if you bring it down, it brings a really warm. So in this case, I'd like where it was, but this is a really cool tool that allows you to really create, warm tones and cool tones depending on the look you're going for. So let me turn that off. But I'm happy with the color temperature of this one, so I'm going to leave it where it is. Now I want to show you actually one of the settings in here that is only in PhotoKey 6 Pro, and that's the depth of field. This is a really cool tool. Basically what this does is it simulates what a real camera, how it takes a picture. So usually when you take a picture with a nice DSLR, say, and your subject is usually in focus, and anything that's behind your subject is out of focus, and anything in front of it, closer to you, is also out of focus, and just the area you're focusing is the only part in focus. And what this does is it simulates that. So there's a lot of different settings for this. And you can basically choose the area you want to have the focus. So if I clicked here, as you can see, it's out of focus up here and focus in here. So it basically works. It doesn't know depth per se, but what it does is it kind of fakes it by doing it, using it vertically and horizontally. As you can see, you can choose the type here. And in this case, I want to put the focus down here in the ground just because she's in the foreground, so I want the foreground of focus and the background out of focus. And you can also adjust the amount of focus and spread. All these tools help you adjust how much is blurred and how little is blurred. But actually, I'm pretty happy. I might turn down the blur just a little bit, just a little more subtle blur, maybe just around there. So yeah, that looks pretty good. I didn't have to change a whole lot of settings, but it just depends on what you're going for. But this is a great tool, only found in PhotoKey 6, but it really helps you create that realistic look, create that realistic look for your image and really make it start to blend together. Alright, so now let's go ahead and let's work on the foreground image now and get it to kind of match that background color. So we're going to use the same thing. We're going to go to saturation, and we're going to turn the saturation down a bit because we kind of want her to be in the same, same kind of look. So this is just taken all at once. So we're going to turn the saturation down just a little bit more than we did the background because I think she was a little more saturated. We're going to adjust the levels. Just bring a little more contrast here. So probably about the same thing. I think about 10% and 10% should be good. So that looks good. So she's, a little more contrast there. Now, else I want to do, I just want to add a little blur to her. I think in this case, I'm kind of going for a stylistic look here, and I think she's just a little too in focus. So blur is a really good tool. And again, if you go too far, it's just going to be way too much. But in this case, again, I want to go something very subtle. Maybe just like a blur of 3. I thought she was just maybe just a little sharp. So it's a good thing to think about. All these tools is sometimes you want to just do very small amounts to them, and though they're not extremely noticeable, they just add to the feel of the image. So now another thing I want to cover here is bilateral blur, and this is a cool tool. What this tool does is it helps remove any blemishes and stuff in the skin. Our model here, Jacqueline, has very nice skin, so it's really not too necessary with her. As you also see, The initial settings are a little strong. It actually almost makes it look a little cartoonish. So when I use bilateral blur, I usually find that I want to adjust the settings and turn the blur down a bit, adjust the threshold sometimes. Well, so you just need, this is another tool you just play with until you get what you want. It works great though. I have had pictures I've worked with it. The person had some blemishes and things like this, and this does a good job of cleaning the skin up and making just look a little nicer. So like I said, Jacqueline doesn't need it too much, but we'll go ahead and leave that on. Just clean up a bit, but again, you want to do subtle, just enough to get rid of the blemishes, but not make it look give it that kind of strange plasticky look. So now I want to cover this is another feature that you can only find in PhotoKey 6 Pro. Another cool filter that really helps sell the kind of the reality of your picture, and that's shadow cast. And basically what this does is very simple. It just creates a shadow from your model. So basically with this, I'm going to adjust it down. We need to make some adjustments here. So this can be a really cool tool. You got to be careful with it though, because also if you don't use it correctly, it can actually make your image look a little more fake. So you want to think about like where the sun's coming from in your background image, how strong the shadow would be, the angle of it. So you can adjust all those things. And in this case, this is kind of overcast day, and the shadow wouldn't be that strong, and there's not a whole lot of shadows in there, but I think it just adds to the look of it. So in this case, I want to turn the transparency down. I want to make a very subtle shadow, just so there's a little something there. And you can also do different settings, change the color if you want. It's a really cool feature, and if you've used correctly, it can really add to the realistic look of your image. So I think that's pretty good. It's just very subtle looking, but just kind of adds that a little bit there. So great tool, but yeah, use carefully. So this is starting to look really good now. I just want to show you something real quick. Under layers, this is a cool feature. Basically, this is where I talked about you could add like fog and rain and things like that, is using the layer tools. So in this one, I'm not going to do anything like that, but I am going to add a layer, because this image we've created before. Actually, we kind of wanted to go with like kind of like a magazine advertisement type image that you'd find in like a fashion magazine or something like that. So you just add a layer, and I think it supports up to 6 layers, I believe it was. I'm going to click add. I'm going to use this Calvin Klein logo here. And of course, with the logo, you can, or any layer you bring in, you can adjust the size of it, scale it how you want, rotate it, and do the flipping vertically and horizontally. So you can make all the adjustments to it that you want. So I'm just going to kind of place it there. I think I actually made it a little big. So we're just going to kind of set it there. So we just kind of want to create that like magazine ad type look. So I'll just kind of set it right around there. So that's looking pretty good. Now I just want to show you. Now we're going to get into like the effects tab. So this is really close. This is kind of really starting to look good. But the effects tab is kind of where you really bring a whole lot of cool things into the image and really finish it up and tie it all together. So basically what all the effects tab does, all these settings, what they do is they apply to the entire image, not just the foreground, background, but all to the entire image, including your layer here. So I'll just kind of go over these really quickly and then go over specifically the ones that I'm going to use for this one. So 3-strip color, basically you can just add greens, blues, that change the strength of them, depending on just the look you want. Of course, you can go very extreme, kind of create a look like maybe she's on Mars or something like that. Again, you probably want to just use these in a subtle way, but they can do some really cool stuff depending on what you're going for. I don't use this one a whole lot, but I have used it. It does some cool stuff. Now, this one I do use a lot, actually. I really kind of like the look it creates, and for this image particularly, it's perfect for it. It's called Bleach Bypass. Basically what it does, you can see it even takes out more of the saturation, takes it down a little more, and even more contrast to it. I just really like the look it creates. It depends, like of course, it totally depends on the type of image you're going for, but in this case, I think it works really well. Of course, you have complete control of the how much it's doing. I like the amount it's doing, but I just want to change the strength down. I think it's a little strong, so we're just going to turn down to about 35. And I think that just creates a really cool look. It's kind of one of my favorites I like playing with. So now, just to show you real quick, a focus blur, basically what it does is, as you can see, it blurs out everything but what you wanted, the area you want. So if I just click like right here on her face, as you can see, it blurs the entire, including, as you can see, it blurs out the layer here too. So you can really just, if you want to, have focus on one specific area, you can do that. And of course you have all these different settings for how large it is, how much blur. So it's a cool feature. In this case, not quite the style I want to go for this time, but another cool effect that you can use. Soft focus is kind of the same thing. It basically just kind of puts a little, like, as you can see, a soft focus around the entire image, and it almost creates a very kind of dreamy look to it. It almost actually works for this picture. I almost like it in this one. I'm not going to use it in this one though, but again, you have different settings. So again, you know, all these things you just play with, adjust the sliders, change the different modes, and just play with it and see what you can create. So like I said, almost like that, but I don't think I'm going to use it this time. Vignette is another really cool tool. I do use this one a lot also. And Vignette, basically what it does is, let me turn the feather down here so you can see what it does. Basically it creates this dark image, a circle, basically, and on the outside of the circle you can see it's very dark. And what this does, it just helps you focus the eye onto the area you want. Of course, you need the feather because you want it to be more subtle than that. You don't want such a harsh edge there. So, and also you can, there's the basic settings in these. If you click light, it adjusts the sliders for you, basically. Light, normal, and bold. Puts really dark corners around there. In this one, I'm just going to go with light. It's very subtle look, but it just kind of helps focus the eye into usually the center of the image or kind of where you want it to be. So the last effect that we have in here is tint. So this is really cool. It allows you to create really like totally different color looks. And sepia, of course, that's like perfect if you're trying to create like kind of an old west, you know, maybe picture or something, or just an old looking picture, so from the 20 or something, because it's kind of the style, the color that what the pictures came out as. They have, of course, just you can do your black and white pictures here. And all these, basically these are all kind of different colors, like palladium looks really cool actually. I actually kind of like that one. But just different one. Emerald, of course, has a greenish tinge to it. And of course, you can adjust the strength so it can be more subtle look than you want. But yeah, the tints are really fun to play with. This image, we don't really need it. So that's basically it for this image. That kind of gives you the, hopefully it looks really cool. I'm pretty pleased with that one. Just kind of creates an entire look and blends everything in. And I think it really looks pretty stylistic. So that's kind of the what we're going for there. So hope that looks good. I do want to show you real quick a few other pictures that we did, just kind of some of the things. Bring in a couple other ones just to show you different style, different uses, and what you can do with it. So let me go ahead and discard that. So as you can see, this is kind of a magazine cover we created, and this is actually a magazine cover we actually sell on our website. So I just want to show you. So this is kind of cool. Like this is perfect for like doing things for team photos and things like that. As you can see, let me go to filters here. We did very little of the actual image. Just the levels were changed a little bit. I believe the background had nothing done to it. So as you can see, if you look at the canvas, if you go under import and you look at the background, you can see it's just this night baseball. That's also on our website if you're interested. And then the layers. This is where we used, this baseball, of course, is just a layer in here that, of course, we adjusted the size and the look of it. And then, the one thing I want to show you really quick, too, is the John Krebs Average 330 is actually just a text layer. Basically like you find in almost any program, basically, so you can choose your font and bold, italic if it's centered and the color of it. So if you want to just type kind of your own stuff into the image, this is the perfect tool for it. You can, of course, rotate it and do it vertically if you want also, things like that. So this is just kind of another way to use it. You don't have to necessarily create all that stylistic look if this is kind of what you're going for. Let me show you one more before we finish this up. I just want to show you kind of one more. Let me discard that. So this is just kind of a silly one that I created. Just going to go show you a whole bunch of kind of all the stuff you can do. As you can see, actually, this eye patch and these hats, these are actually a pack we have. It's called the Photo Party Pack. Just fun like things you can use in the layers. As you can see, I created all these different layers. So the hat's a layer, and you can of course adjust the size and place it where you want so it fits right. That the eye patch she's wearing and his kind of mustache and his head. So these are all different layers I used and stuck in here for fun stuff. One of the things I really wanted to show you with this picture is this image. As you can see, this is just a green screen pen to a wall, and the lighting's all not all that spectacular, and the green screen's all quite wrinkled. And I believe actually also this was taken with an iPhone. As you can see, looking at the image, with a little work in the keying, it cleans up really nicely. So that's kind of the point where you don't need to do like have a really fancy camera or really fancy lighting. This can work really well with simply getting a green screen, having good enough lighting, and taking a picture with anything, including a camera. Including a phone, like an iPhone or something like that. So also I just wanted to show you too, just this one I did do a lot of filters with, and I was just having fun with it. So I made a lot of adjustments to it with a saturation, of course, and the levels, and I actually changed the color temperature here to kind of give it a warmer look. And also, of course, the effects, I used a lot of the effects this time. I actually did the focus blur, just kind of blur it all out. And as you can guess, the tint is used as a sepia look. Just kind of great. Just had fun with him in the Old West look. So definitely an example of that picture was taken with no idea in mind what we'd do with it or anything. We were just kind of taking pictures of the kids, and this is kind of what we created. Certainly not quite dressed for the Old West, but it was kind of a fun little thing you can play with. So that's kind of the idea. You can do like a fashion shoot, was very serious, very stylistic, very cool looking, and you can do things like this, where you can just have a whole lot of fun with it and do silly stuff too. It's great for both. So thank you very much for watching. I think that's it. Hopefully you learned something today. Hopefully I was able to help you with that, and you kind of have a better understanding how to use PhotoKey more than just removing the green screen and just putting a picture up there, but how to really use the filters and stuff like that. So hopefully that helped with that. So again, thank you very much for watching, and have a great day.